J'aurais pas dû partir sans dire je t'aime.
Disciplines emerged from the relation of docility and utility and aim to make the body, which is subjected to power, increase in obedience as it increased utility. A network of coercive mechanisms molds the body so that it will only does what one wishes, but operates what one wishes. Discipline is a political anatomy of detail. The knowledge of primary principles and details provide a strong foundation in one's overall understanding of any subject matter. As the book states, discipline and punish, it is important that one also strives to become a Newton of small bodies, because every single detail, no matter how small and seemingly insignificant, must not be underestimated or neglected. Foucault's discussion of the panopticon proper is preceded by the legacies of the plague and the leper. The plague control at the end of the 17th century prescribed the creation of inspectors and the transformation of the home into an enclosed, segmented place, observed at every point in which individuals were the objects of writing, observation, and power. Thus, the plague is a symbol of all forms of confusion and disorder, was met by order and analytic power. Those acts and individuals that fell outside of this discipline were contagions. Foucault contrasts the system of order established by the plague to the exclusionary binary principles that define the leper and the clean. All the mechanisms of power that the modern individual is subjected to are composed of those two forms from which they distantly derive. In the succeeding videos made by our group, we will see the models of Foucault, like the panopticism, discipline, and power, that are manifested in the activities in our daily lives.
During the 18th century, Foucault wrote about discipline and control using prison cells and military camps as his examples. He explains how these institutions create docile and obedient bodies that work for the efficiency and for the benefit of that certain institution. Military men are trained every day through disciplining exercise so that they may become better and stronger soldiers. Soldiers who are physically, emotionally, and mentally ready for war. Another thing that Foucault talks about is the importance of the partition of space and bodies. He says that these partitions create less chaos and increase work efficiency. Decades after Foucault's time, we find ourselves in the 21st century, an era without slavery or inhumane modes of punishment. We'd like to think of ourselves as highly educated individuals who promote human dignity and human rights. However, if we look at our society in a more critical manner, we can't help but ask ourselves if our society is that much different from that during Foucault's era. It is only through this that we realize that although it may be in a different form, our society employs the same mode of discipline and the same mode of punishment and control in all of us, creating docile and obedient bodies. The following video is a prime example of how Foucault's model of discipline and control is seen in very common areas such as the workplace and offices.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Most, if not all, companies today have different departments such as the human resources, the sales, and the finance departments. These are then separated into their respective workplaces and offices. This, as Foucault said, creates a more controlled and a more disciplined working environment that results in an increase in efficiency and work output. Another thing that we could note in workplaces and offices is the observing hierarchy we see in the form of the boss or the manager who goes around checking and criticizing the work of the employees. It is very similar to the job of the police or the lieutenant or the sergeant in military camps and prison cells in the 18th and the 19th century. The threat of having one's job taken away from you and the chance of having a promotion becomes a disciplinary apparatus very similar to the more physical mode of punishment and reward system in the 18th and 19th century.
Foucault also discussed Bentham's concept of the panopticon, where there is a tower in the middle of a building that makes possible to see each and every cell that confines an individual around it. Not only is he not able to communicate with his companions because of the sidewalls, he is also seen but is not able to see. The idea of someone watching him, a possible authority, made him conscious of what he was doing. Even if he was not sure if someone was looking or who that someone is, made him change his behavior abruptly, an automatic work of power. So as you can see, the concept of panopticism is still applicable even in modern times. the surveillance cameras acted as the towers that sees everything. So the man, without his knowledge that the cameras are in place, acted like no one was watching. He was just goofing around and messing around. But when he realized that there were surveillance cameras that were looking at him, he suddenly changed his behavior. He became well-behaved and composed. The idea of someone watching him, a possible authority, made him conscious of what he was doing. Even if he was not sure if someone was looking or who that someone is, made him change his behavior abruptly, an automatic work of power. So as you can see, the concept of panopticism is still applicable even in modern times.
Foucault also discussed how the main purpose of disciplinary power is to train. The mechanism of disciplinarity has shifted from those which demonstrate power and create a spectacle in order for people to see, for example, public executions, to the means of observation and exposed continuous surveillance of individuals. Such observatories are arranged like a military camp, a model also found in schools, factories, hospitals, and prisons. Discipline now operates by a calculated gaze and not by force. From hierarchical observation, Foucault also discussed the concept of normalizing judgment. Here, the departures from the correct behavior are punished as well as those that do not meet the rules. Disciplinary punishment is also corrective, and it functions in the double system of gratification punishment. Such mechanism traces the abnormal, and this penalty normalizes the individuals.
You think I'm pretty without any makeup on. You think I'm funny when I tell the punchline wrong. I know you get me, so I let my walls come down, down. Before you met me, I was alright, but things were kinda heavy. You brought me to life now every February. You'll be my Valentine, Valentine. Let's go all the way tonight. No regrets, just love. We can dance until we die. You and I will be young.
Is this okay for my shirt?
You make me feel like I'm living a teenage dream. The way you turn me on, I can't sleep. Let's run away and don't ever look back. Don't ever look back. My heart stops when you look at me. Just one touch. Now, baby, I believe this is real. Take a chance and don't ever look back.
Oh my god, my dad is here! What am I gonna do? So, Dad, it's my girl Justin, my other girl Joey. Say hi, girls.
Hello, Mr. Blanche.
This disciplinary apparatus is not only operative in schools and institutions, it is also applicable in the household and communities in general. Individuals have their own rules in the family as well as in society, and so everyone forms expectations of other people. Take a hypothetical scenario like this. A son freely acts gay with his friends at home, but then he acts like a straight man when he realized that his father has arrived in their house. His parents apparently expects him to be masculine, and he is aware of this. Society tells him to follow the norm and to live up to the expectations. The presence of his father imposes upon him a state of consciousness that makes him play his role and leads him to act naturally, manly, to be acceptable in the eyes of his parents. He is afraid of the punishment, the possible rejection or condemnation, and the consequences that would come along if his parents would find out about his true nature, and his defiance of the norm and society's expectations. He has been trained to consciously regulate himself and to control his activities, given a place and time. As he is observed by a supervisor or someone who has authority over him, he develops into a docile and obedient body.
You have seen in our presentation the manifestations of Foucault's concept of panopticism and power. We may not notice these systems occurring simultaneously, but they are truly present in such circumstances. Foucault's detractors have always considered a refusal to a normative basis for resistance as a significant weakness, especially when considered in conjunction with his insistence that power relations are everywhere in human society. Foucault offers no hope of a society in which power would not operate. He insisted that the fact that power is everywhere does not mean that nothing is possible. It means that everything is possible. If there are relations of power throughout every social field, he argues, it is because there is freedom everywhere. This redefinition of power, however, carried with it the danger of removing the possibility of specifying those situations in which there is no freedom. In rejecting the view that the power is an evil, which is opposed to freedom, it carried the danger of implying that there is actually no such evil, that the removal of freedom is impossibility. This problem was compounded by Foucault's perceived inability to differentiate between power relations and states of domination. If power relations are inevitable and they cannot be distinguished from relations of domination, then Foucault would seem to be giving, at the very least, a general justification for forms of domination.
J'aurais pas dû partir sans dire je t'aime. Mais j'aurais pu partir sans faire une scène. Les deux assis en larmes sur le canapé. Et moi fatigué, mal rasé. Je me suis levé, j'ai claqué la porte.